Hello, this is Rahul Reddy, Career Launcher, Bangalore Head, as well as English faculty. I'm going to do the solutions for the English section of CLAT 2023. We are following the master booklet issued by the CLAT Consortium in terms of order of passages and questions. Right. Look at this particular passage first. The key idea that we are discussing in this passage is that access to English acts as a social divide in India. Right. So, and the good thing is it's given right at the beginning. English encodes class in India. There are many factors which create divides in India, social division, income, caste, gender, etc. English is one of them. Right. Even in early parliament discussions, there was a discussion on whether to replace English with regional languages. And Gandhiji himself felt that imposing English as a medium was not a good idea. Now, even today, language continues to be a tool of exclusion. One person who has talked about this is Chetan Bhagat. Right? Now, Chetan Bhagat, some details of Chetan Bhagat is given in terms of he's a best-selling writer in English, but he also writes in very simple language without any literary pretensions. So he's aiming at people who are not very good at English. So Chetan Bhagat has defined people who know English in India into two categories. One is the E1 category. E1 category are people whose parents speak English, so they are comfortable with English at home. They studied in good English medium schools at big cities. So they read English newspapers, books, etc. But fundamentally, what it means is they are very comfortable with English. They're able to think in English. E2 are people who have familiarity with English. They understand the language, but they're not that comfortable or proficient. So as an example, Chetan Bhagat says, in an interview conducted by E1, E2s will kind of come across as not very competent. Then the author provides his or her own opinion, where he says Chetan Bhagat's divide between E1 and E2 is not as sharp as Chetan Bhagat seems to suggest, right? So they don't exactly fit into the stereotypes of E1 and E2. There are many other factors that also affect access to English. One is gender, the other is caste, the other is region, like South Indians tend to be better at English than North Indians, right? So there are different kinds of E1 and different kinds of E2. So it's not a clear two groups, E1 and E2. There are a lot of subgroups. Now let's look at the questions. Which of the following can be inferred about authors' views on English in contemporary? Now you'll see this in many CLAT questions. Elimination is a great way to solve questions, especially because up to two options are normally very easy to eliminate, right? So for example, here you will see English is not an Indian language. That is not something that has been given anywhere in the passage. Similarly, people's views on English are divided on political lines. That again is not given anywhere. So option B and D are very straightforward. Ability to speak English in India depends on place and identity. This is correct. Remember, he talks about South India, North India. He talks about gender. He talks about higher caste and lower caste. All these are social identity and of course, place. Therefore, A is the right answer. C, competence is only given with respect to Chetan Bhagat's example, that when E2 groups attend interviews conducted by E1, they don't come across as that competent. That is not necessarily the author's view. So A is the right answer. Question 2. Which of the following would defy Chetan Bhagat's neat categorization of Indian English speakers into E1 and E2? Now, if you remember, we can kind of refer back to the passage if you want. E1 and E2 classification is given here by Chetan Bhagat. E1 are people who learned English early through parents speaking in English, schools in big cities, good English medium schools, and they are very comfortable. They even consume media products in English. E2 are people who have an understanding of English. They have learned it probably not as early as E1, and they're not very proficient or comfortable or fluent. Now look at the options again, right? B, Moin once was a milkman in Ranchi. Learns English at the age of 17. So it's clearly not E1. E1 are people whose parents speak English and their school education is in good English medium schools. But after a lot of hard work, he has become an instructor of spoken English at a successful institute. So clearly, B, Moin, started off in E2 but now is as proficient in English as, let us say, an E1. So this one defies the neat categorization of E1 and E2. So an E2 person has kind of moved into E1 through his own effort. Now, obviously, that means answer is either B or both A and B, which is C. So then we have to decide on A. Savita is an above average student, English medium school in Mumbai, big city, upper middle class family. It is not given that their family speaks English, but possibly can be inferred. Public speaking makes her nervous and she fumbles through her interviews. Okay. Now, she has all the characteristics of E1, right? Upper middle class family, big city, English medium school. But does she become E2? Because that's what we are looking for. In B, we saw an E2 candidate become E1. Does Savita go from E1 to E2 because of public speaking nervousness? I don't think so. Because public speaking is a nervous issue where she becomes a little uncomfortable because of the social pressure. It is not that her proficiency changes. Therefore, she remains E1 with a specific problem. So this is a close one, but we will not go with A. Therefore, A and B is eliminated and B is the answer. Which of the following best describes author's response to Bhagat's views on English? Right. Now, if you look at it, here we had in this paragraph, Chetan Bhagat's views, and in the last paragraph, we have the author's response. The situation may not be so comically stark. That means it is not so crystal clear. This is E1, this is E2, E1 will dominate E2. Right? And he says there are different types of E1, there are different types of E2, and sometimes E2 can overcome E1. So he's not completely throwing out Chetan Bhagat theory, nor is he completely arguing. He says it's not as easy, neat as E1, E2. There are a lot of subcategories and ways in which E2 can gain proficiency and so on. Look at the options. Author dismisses his views. No. Completely agrees. No. Neither agrees nor disagrees, considers his views and finds that they lack nuance. So D is the best of the options. He's not completely agreeing, completely disagreeing. He's saying, look, the basic structure is not so simple. There are going to be subcategories and levels within. That is the nuance part that we are talking about. Question 4, which of the following can be inferred from Gandhi's views with respect to English? Again, direct reference, we can go and check. And this is exactly what Gandhi said. He said imposition of foreign medium on the youth of the country is going to be a tragedy. Our boys think, and rightly under the present circumstances, that without English, they cannot get into government jobs. So the youth of the country think that English is needed to get into government, and Gandhi agrees, saying that under the present circumstances, their thought is correct. Similarly, Gandhi says that girls have been made to believe that knowing English is an important, requirement for a good marriage. Now let's take a look at the choices. Now, English women cannot get rich. So richness is not the point. Passport to marriage was the point. So C is easily eliminated. English should not be taught as a subject. Now this, if you are careful, you understand the point was English as a medium. He's not saying English should not be taught at all. So English can be taught as a subject. The problem is teaching in English medium. So A is not the correct answer. That leaves you with B or none of the above. English proficiency is vital to gain entry into bureaucracy. Yes, that is what the youth believed, and Gandhi agrees that they are correct in believing so. Therefore, B is the. All the following pairs of words are synonyms except stark and sharp. Stark means very crystal clear. In this context, we are using stark as the divide between E1 and E2 as per Chetan Bhagat. So sharp division. So stark and sharp are synonyms. Sophisticated and spoiled, they are opposite. Sophisticated is a person who is culturally aware, comfortable with culture, a kind of has some amount of knowledge and learning. Spoiled is somebody who is a person who, let us say, does not have manners, has not been raised in a proper. So these are opposites. Crusade and campaign are similar in nature. Crusade is an intense, long-standing campaign. Otherwise, it is a campaign. Cohesion and unity are also synonyms. Therefore, sophisticated and spoiled would be the right choice. Okay. The second passage. Interesting one. Let's take a look. The author says that she grew up in a small town near Kalimpong, that's North Bengal. Okay. In pre-liberalization India, so we are talking about the context here. Pre-liberalization India, small town. Everything arrived late, not just material things, but also ideas. Magazines, news, everything arrived late. Right? This temporal gap, that means time gap. So by the time news came, it had become literature or legend. Right? So it becomes difficult for them to stay aware and current as far as things which are happening in the world. But since that was the only kind of life they knew, they had to accept it. Now, what was the effect? The effect of shortage of reading material created two types of people. One is people who stopped reading. Whatever was necessary for school and college, they would read. Otherwise, they just stopped reading. The others are people who said, look, whatever I find, whether it is new or old, I'll still read. As an example, the author clearly belongs to the second kind. She would even read road signs. Okay. And she would get old papers and magazines and books from the kabadiwala, the person who buys old paper. Now, then analyzing that experience, the author says there are two things here. One is the sense of being late for everything coming late. But the other thing is there is also a desire to read more and a pleasure in language. Then talks about the first one, right? What happens when news and information comes late to you? You think that you're talking something unique, but it has already happened elsewhere, right? So again, a very nice example. He talks about a professor who made a lot of arguments in his PhD dissertation after years of hard work and suddenly realized that this work has already been done by somebody else. So that's a tragedy kind of thing where you feel that, look, we are actually behind in terms of time. Then a small silver lining at the end. What rescues it? The small positive here is unpredictability of these anachronistic discoveries. Anachronistic meaning out of time. So since ideas come to you late, also in random order, which means that you can make original connections between these ideas. So not as straightforward as the previous passage, but let's take a look at the question. First one is very straightforward. What use was the kabadiwala to the author? Straightforward. Author was interested in the books and magazines that the kabadiwala had. Therefore, option B, straight pick me question, right? Some of the other options are pretty much ridiculous. Like, for example, ordering online in pre-liberalization India. The kabadiwala purchased her magazines, not given anywhere. In fact, the author would get magazines from the kabadiwala, steal the magazines, another extreme option. So very easy, either pick me or eliminate. Both are very easy, direct question. What, according to the author, is essential to the experience of being a provincial reader? Okay, now this is important. There are two things they said. One is everything comes late, but because that is the only way of life they knew, they accepted it. And the second is there was a pleasure of reading. There's a desire to read more and take pleasure in the. Okay. If you do elimination, over eagerness. Okay. That is the first thing that go. Belatedness in the sense of coming late for everything. Accepting a temporal gap between what was current and the time they arrived at the provincial location. Now, to an extent, A and C both appear correct. Okay. There's a small nuance here, right? What is the problem with A is it says a sense of coming late. The reader is not coming late. It is the ideas which are coming late, right? So I would say between A and C, C is a better option. It's a very neat explanation that, look, what is current in the wider world comes to them late, but they accept it because that's the only kind of life that they know. They don't have a choice. Okay. So one, very straightforward. Two, little close between these two choices. Why did the author feel a sense of epiphany and deep sadness? Again, if you're not sure, you can refer back. Doesn't take much time to find it, right? A deep sense of tragedy attending this sort of thing. Just 1 second. Right. So this happens because of this sense of belatedness, of everything coming late. inventing things that have already been discovered far away without our knowledge and cooperation. That creates a moment of epiphany and deep sadness. Remember, the example explains this idea. The professor worked for years on his PhD thesis. He thought he was putting original ideas, and then he realized somebody has already done this kind of arguments before. That creates a phenomenal sense of sadness. Right? So the example is good. Things that felt special, things that felt unique were already established and accepted in the wider world. So you think that this is something new, something original, but it's already been done before. That creates the sadness. Right? So you can pick A as the correct answer. But remember, this question actually can be done easier by elimination. Author was less well read than others. Nowhere mentioned. In fact, the author had a strong desire and would read anything. Author missed being the big city, out of scope. Nowhere mentioned that the author wanted to be in the big city. If B and C is wrong, then D, all the above is also wrong. So by elimination also, you come back to A. Okay, fourth, what does the word anachronistic mean? Right? See, you would know, chronos. Right? Chronos is a Greek word meaning time. Right? I think Greek god of time probably, but again, as long as we know that chronos is connected to time, we are good enough, right? You might have heard things like chronology, which is the order of time in which some things happen. You could have heard of something called a chronometer, which is a fancy word for a watch or a clock, right? So chronos deals with time. Ana is a negative suffix, so anachronistic would mean out of time. Right? Again, elimination also works. Non-urban setting, no. Mufassil area, no. Opposed to prevailing sensibilities, no. There's only one option which is actually connected with time. So if you know chronos is time, 4 options, one connected with time, simple pick. Which of the following options captures the meaning of the last sentence? So let's go and have a quick look once again. What was the last sentence here? What rescues it is the unpredictability of these discoveries, the randomness, haphazardness involved in mapping connection among thoughts and ideas in a way that hasn't been professionalized. So because these ideas from outside come to you late and they don't come in any specific order, right? You get the advantage sometimes of making different connections or unique connections between these ideas. It's a small positive of being in a situation where ideas come to you late. Again, authors feels provincial. She pretends to be from the metro. Clearly, out of scope, nowhere mentioned anywhere in the passage. Though the author is aware of the limitedness of her knowledge, nowhere mentioned. She is confident, can hold her own. She is proud of her roots, all out of scope. Right? So A and C is gone. Therefore, D, all the above is gone. So it must be B. Again, you can also pick this question. Though the author feels dated in terms of access to ideas, because she's from a small town, it has an opportunity to engage with ideas with some originality, making connections from different ideas, right? Which is what is given the last. Okay, this passage is my personal favorite, right? So a lot of people talk about Salman Rushdie as an author. When we think Salman Rushdie, the first thing that comes is Midnight's Children. Definitely a wonderful book, and he got the Booker Prize, etc. for that. Of course, I was personally disappointed with some of Salman Rushdie's later work, but that happens, right? Remember Ram Gopal Verma's later movies, even some of Mani Ratnam's later movies, not as good as the original. It's okay. But my personal favorite book of Salman Rushdie is this one, written for children, though adults can enjoy it perfectly well. It's called Haroun and the Sea of Stories. This excerpt is from that book. Anyway, back to the passage itself. It's a middle of a story. So pick a bird if commanded, any bird, etc. So here, if one of the persons in the characters in the story is talking to Haroun, who is the protagonist or the chief character, he says, pick any bird, right? So Haroun says, look, I can't see any birds around me. There is only a wooden peacock. So how do I pick? Then if says a person may choose what he cannot see. So it doesn't matter if there are no birds around, pick from your imagination. Okay, you may even pick a bird which is not present. You may pick a completely invented bird, like a winged horse, flying turtle, airborne whale, etc., etc. To give a thing a name is to kind of make it come alive, bringing the said thing into being. Because you say, okay, that's a winged horse. So you created something out of your imagination and therefore it exists. Okay. He says, look, you cannot say that I will not trust what he cannot see, which is what Harun is saying. So if I can't see something, how can I say it exists? The answer, he says, look, there's so much in this world that you can't see, but you still trust it. For example, you've not seen Africa. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You believe, you agree that it exists. There's so many other things. Similarly, history, what happened in history? You don't know, you were not there, you didn't see it. But yes, you could accept that it exists, right? So if you say that, look, until I see something with my own eyes, I won't believe it, then you will get into a lot of. Then he says, okay, then from his hand, he says, take a look at this. And in the hand, in the palm of his hand, he saw a lot of tiny birds. Along with birds, there are fabulous winged creatures out of legends. So not just legendary creatures, not just, real birds in tiny size, but also legendary creatures were seen in the. Then finally, Harun says, no point arguing with this guy. So he pointed at a tiny crested bird. He said, okay, I'm going to select this particular bird. So that is the excerpt of the story. If is right, which of the following statements is true? Okay, now look at the options carefully. You should only trust what you can see. This is exact opposite of what if is saying. If is saying, look, if you say that I will only trust what I see, you'll get into trouble. Right? You can trust things that you cannot see. For example, he talks about all the things in the world, Africa, penguins, Japan, which you have not seen. Similarly, he talks about past and the future. Okay. Naming something is the only way to make it unreal. Naming something is only way to make it real. So B and C are kind of opposites. So one of them should be true. What does he say? Clearly, he says to name something is to identify it. Well, that is one way to bring the said thing into being. So clearly, by naming something, you are making it real. So D will be the correct answer, B will not be. You should only trust what you cannot see. That is ridiculous. It's an extreme option, right? He's saying you can also trust things that you cannot see. He is not saying that only unseen things should be trusted. Which of the following applies to it? Now, this is a very interesting kind of a question. We are talking about the manner in which he speaks in. Contradictions, synonyms, ideas with proverbs, metaphors. Now, let's take a look, right? What I'll do is kind of erase the ink and start again. Let us look at the words spoken by if. So pick a bird, any bird. Okay. A person may choose what he cannot see. A person may mention a bird's name even if the creature is not present or correct. A person may even select a flying creature of his own invention. To give a thing a name, a label, a handle is to rescue it from anonymity, to identify it, and bring the said thing into being. In these parts, I'm having my time wasted by someone who will not trust in what he cannot see. How much have you seen? Africa, have you seen it? No. Then is it truly there? And submarines, etc., etc. A lot of examples. Believe in your own eyes, and you'll get into a lot of trouble. Hot water, a mess. Take a look, or should I say a gander, at the enclosed. So you'll see multiple areas where he has used synonyms. A name, a label, a handle, synonyms. A lot of trouble, hot water, a mess. Okay. Take a look or a gander. Okay. So this habit of speaking in synonyms. Right? It's a tricky question. Which of the following most accurately describes what the underlined sentence means in the context of the passage? Okay. Do not restrict your knowledge only to what you can physically see. So it is exactly what if is saying in a different set of words, saying that you can trust what you don't see also. Right. So A is correct, but quickly look at other options. Accept everything you see uncritically. It doesn't say that. This is again an extreme option. Trusting your senses is a recipe for success. This is opposite of what if says. He says if you believe your eyes only, then you may get into a lot of trouble. Learn not to appreciate viewpoints other than your own, again out of scope and possibly goes against the spirit of the passage. All the words given below are related in meaning except, okay, levitate, fly, hover, all mean the same, right? Harry Potter fans would remember the magic spell Levi, Wingardium Leviosa, right? So levitate comes from to raise something, especially in the air. So it is similar to fly. Hover is like flying at the same spot for some time. So levitate, fly, hover are related. Gander would be here to take a look, right? Therefore, gander is the outside word. What does fabulous mean in the passage? Okay, let's take a quick look where exactly it is used. Right? It says, as well as birds, they were fabulous winged creatures out of legends. Then examples. Okay. Now let's look at the choices. Right? Enormous in terms of size is clearly wrong because he's talking about things which are there in the hand of if. Birds are tiny. Similarly, other creatures are also there of the same small size. So enormous is clearly wrong. Very good doesn't make sense. Now it is unbelievable or mythical. Here it's a bit close, but understand what it says. It says fabulous winged creatures out of legends. So legendary and mythology goes together. Therefore, mythical creatures. Okay. Looking at passage 4. This is again a little tricky. So these are some of the passages where you had to spend a little bit of time. While last year's CLAT English was also slightly lengthy, it was a little more straightforward. Here we had a few passages where a little more thinking is required. I think one of the things that CLAT has done is they broadened the search for passages. Now they are looking at books, they are looking at Indian sources, foreign sources, some journals, not just newspapers and editorials, okay, which kind of makes passages challenging. Those who are preparing for next year or the year after that should therefore up their game as far as the quality of passages that they read and practice with. Okay. The call of expression turned the village of the internet into a city, which expanded at time-lapse speed, social connections bristling with neurons. Okay. So here he gives the introduction saying that people came to the internet. Why did internet become popular? Because the call for self-expression. People wanted to put forward their ideas, their views, their personality on the internet. And then it became extremely fast. It grew very fast. But remember, the key is going to be this. Internet's popularity started because people wanted to express themselves, their ideas, their personality online. Then the curdling of the internet happened slowly and then all at once. What do you mean by curdling of the social internet? So here, curdling in this case, right, comes from this process of making curd, is about spoiling. It becomes bitter, sour. So social internet started spoiling. The experience started spoiling. This entire second paragraph is talking about the negative experience. People were losing excitement. Facebook became tedious and trivial. Instagram appeared better, but soon it became a three-ring circus of happiness, popularity, success. Twitter had a lot of promise, but fundamentally became a place to complain about airlines and articles. The dream of a better, truer self on the internet was slipping away. So the idea that we can be true, our true character, personality, we can reveal on the internet, that became. So earlier we were free to be ourselves online. We would express our true personality, but now we have become more self-conscious. Continuing with that idea, he says, look, the mirage here means a fake picture. Fake picture of better online self continued to glimmer. Right? And he says the internet structurally had become itself. There was a built-in performance incentive. Right? Because internet central platforms are built on personal profiles, then the main purpose of any online communication would be to make yourself look good. So whether you post something in terms of text or in terms of photos or in terms of videos, the whole idea is to show, look, I'm a great guy. I went to Timbuktu, I went to Spain, I did skydiving in New Zealand, right? I met whoever, let's say Shania Twain, I don't know if she's still alive, or let us say Taylor Swift. So you make claims that, look, I watched this, really intellectual movie, or I read this really complex book, or I got this award, that award, and so on and so forth. So it is, rather than expressing your true personality, you're trying to sort of create a fake personality, which is all perfect and shiny. Now, this everyday madness is the madness of this architecture. He's saying the design of social internet is like that. It gets people, it sort of pushes people to indulge in this kind of behavior. Which of the following statements can be inferred from the above passage? Again, remember, even for tough questions, two choices normally can be eliminated very quickly. Internet expanded very slowly. Sorry, it didn't. It went at time-lapse speed, right? Given in the first passage. So this is opposite of what is given, factually wrong. The main purpose of social media is to dissuade. Dissuade means persuade people not to show off. This is exactly opposite of what is happening. The author says the social media platforms by design have become places where everybody is forced to show off. Now it's a question between B and C. Internet is addictive. Internet can be used to cause harm. These two are close. Now we would normally like to believe C, right? Because outside, when we have discussed or read, so many places we've been told that internet is an addictive thing. It's designed to be addictive. I think there are a couple of documentaries also about it. But this passage does not focus on the addictiveness of internet, right? But here you will see that the freedom promised by the internet started to seem like something whose greatest potential lay in the realm of misuse. Therefore, I would go with B over C. Now, 2 is a very, very tricky one. All the following statements are truisms except. Okay, so one of them is wrong, 3 of them are true. So if you find a option which appears true, we'll have to eliminate it. Okay. The internet has changed the way the world works. Okay, not quite mentioned in the passage, but probably in the first paragraph. Right? So if you look at the first paragraph, it talks about it has turned the village of the internet into a city at high speed, social connections bristling, etc., etc. Therefore, clearly, internet has changed the way the world worked is correct. Like any tool, digital technology has both advantages and disadvantages. Okay, the passage talks more about the disadvantages, right? But at the beginning, the author talks about the kind of work he was able to do, the early promise of internet. So to some extent, it was seen as useful. Then a lot of negatives also came in. So I'd probably say, okay, C is acceptable. Only time can tell what the future holds. We don't know. This is a tough one, but you will see that he starts by saying early internet showed promise. From 2012, roughly, it started becoming boring to some extent, as well as fake. What will happen is, so in a way, the author is talking about the progression on the internet, how internet started and what it became. And therefore, the next question is, okay, what do you think will happen in the future? So maybe a preference for cat videos can reveal a lot about your personality. This is wrong. Why is this wrong? Because the way internet has been designed now, you are not even trying to reveal your own personality. Everybody is trying to fake polish their personality. Tough one. 3. Which of the following comes closest to the underlined sentence in the passage? What is the underlined sentence here? It is as if we have been placed on a lookout that oversees the entire world and given a pair of binoculars that makes everything look like our own. But while this sentence is a little tricky, if you understand the whole paragraph, the last paragraph, we are saying the online self is a mirage. It's fake. Right? Again, in many passages, when the concepts are tough, use the examples to understand them. Right? Everyone tries to look so hot and well-traveled on Instagram. Everyone was so smug and triumphant on Facebook. On Twitter, making a righteous political statements has become a political good in itself. So it's all about trying to make yourself look good. Right? The way we use the internet says a lot about who we are. This looks tempting, but actually goes against what the author is saying. Author is saying everybody is using the internet in the same way to make themselves look better and, more knowledgeable, more smarter, more hot, more successful than they are. So you're not able to understand, you're not revealing your true self. It is the other way around. Internet has reduced the distance between people. Maybe true, but that is not what is being discussed in the last paragraph. Internet has the ability to customize what we access based on identity. Now, this is it. So if you look at what this last line is saying, makes everything look like our own reflection. So whatever we see looks like a reflection of us, because internet is giving us what we want to see. We are not seeing the truth. There is no real truth out there, but everybody is seeing what they want to see. Which of the following is a metaphor? The village of the internet, true. Internet is being compared to a village, which later became a set. This feverish, electric, unlivable hell, which is basically the online life that he talks about here in the end. The internet, the mazes of incessant forced connection, this feverish, electric, unlivable hell also is given. Then three-ring circus of happiness is being used to describe Instagram. Instagram seem better, but reveal its underlying function as a three-ring circus of happiness, popularity, and so you will see that more than one is correct, therefore all the above. Even if B is a little tricky, you will clearly see A is a metaphor and C is a metaphor, therefore it should be all the above. Which of the following best describe this piece of writing? Easy, it is not a poem, it is not fiction. Now, academic paper, non-fiction essay, clearly non-fiction essay, because academic paper would be a little more formal language and it will introduce more evidence, cite some research, show some data, and so on. Okay, fifth one. This is about archaeology and culture. Until the Kiladi site was discovered, archaeologists by and large believed that Gangetic plains in the north urbanized earlier than Tamil Nadu. That means urbanization, that is moving from village life to town or city life, happened first in the north before it happened in Tamil Nadu. That was the earlier belief. Okay, so obviously in this Kiladi archaeological site, some evidence was found which might kind of question the earlier assumptions. Now, this greater Magadha region, Gangetic Basin, was where urbanization occurred. This was considered the second urbanization phase. The first urbanization phase refers to Harappan or Indus Valley civilization. But so Tamil Nadu's, the earlier idea was that Tamil Nadu urbanization happened around the 3rd century BC. But what we found in terms of evidence at Kiladi pushes the date back, which means that urbanization in Tamil Nadu started earlier, significantly earlier than the 3rd century. Now, for a long time, people have thought that there was connection between Indus Valley civilization and old Tamil traditions. But archaeological evidence did not there. But now in this Kiladi site, there is some similarities that people are finding between Kiladi, which is in Tamil Nadu, and the Indus Valley civilization. So there were a lot of people who were arguing earlier that the ancestors in Tamil Nadu existed at the same time as the Indus Valley. Now, this and further evidence like this might actually prove that. It's not proven yet, but yes, it kind of adds support to the argument that established civilization in Tamil Nadu was there at the same time as the Indus Valley civilization. Right? So it is too early. It's not definitive proof, but clearly the idea has changed. The paradigm has changed. Now, whenever there have been new research on ancient India these days, politics has become involved. Because those people who support Hindu nationalism, they said that Vedic culture is fundamental to the origins of Indian civilization. But what these excavations show that we cannot claim that there's only single source. Okay, understand the connection between this point and the previous point, right? Some people are claiming that the source of all Indian civilizations come from the Vedas, right? And the next saying that evidence found in this site contradicts that, saying that, look, civilizations may have multiple influences. Not everything came from one single source. That is what fountainhead. Fountainhead here means source. Additionally, in the same Kiladi, archaeologists discovered Tamili, a variant of the Brahmi script, which was used for early Tamil language up to 6th century BC. Right? So urban life was there, but also people had their own script. Okay. What was the assumption about the origin of urban life before Kiladi? So obviously, the assumption was that it developed in the north. The origins lay in the North Gangetic Plains. So A is definitely correct. But then we have an option of A and B. The Indus Valley civilization was the first urban civilization of, that's a tricky question. It is given here that what happened in the greater Magadha region is the second urbanization phase. The first urbanization is the Harappan or Indus Valley civilization. Now, this is a question which is debatable. Honestly, we have personally written objection for this and said that, look, students can possibly object to this particular question, saying that instead of A, the answer could be D, both A and B. A is definitely correct, but B also appears correct. Okay, the small differences, yes. If I have to justify A, the way I would look at it is, Indus Valley civilization is called first urban civilization. Now, we know that urbanization happened in Indus Valley, but does it make the entire civilization as urban civilization? That could be a doubt. Of course, there are people who could crib and say, can we say Indus Valley civilization belongs to India because it's now in Pakistan? But that's a silly thing, because obviously thousands of years before, the current political boundaries were not there. It's a part of the Indian subcontinent. The other argument could be that what is the assumption about the origin of? So we are talking about assumption that got shaken because of the Kiladi. Okay, the Indus Valley being the first, that is not affected by the Kiladi archaeology. But the idea that northern plains urbanize earlier than south, that assumption can get disturbed by the new findings. Okay, so A is the answer. The consortium are given. We have our doubts, and we believe that D would be a equally good answer. The Kiladi excavations further challenge the idea of single fountainhead of Indian life. Okay, fountainhead here means source. So literally speaking, fountainhead is the source of the water that comes in the fountain. Right? Where does this come from? It comes here. Remember, we talked about this. Some people claiming that, look, all Indian cultures come from a single source, which is the Vedas, and then yeah, the Kiladi excavation challenged the idea of single fountainhead in life, saying that, look, civilizational developments in India may have come from multiple sources, not necessarily one single source. Dominant theories of how urban modern life came in ancient India were proved wrong. Okay. Neither Indus Valley nor Magadha are clear explanation of how urban life emerged in the Kiladi region. The Kiladi archaeological dig proved that urban and modern life emerged independently, and no one theory is enough to explain it. Okay. A is a little extreme because it says proved wrong. Do understand that definitive proof is not yet there, but definitely evidence supporting the idea that urbanization in Tamil Nadu happened earlier, evidence supporting that civilization in Tamil Nadu may have happened at the same time at the Indus Valley civilization. Okay, but remember, we are talking about this particular line, which is single source for civilization. Therefore, no one theory is enough, and urban life could have emerged independent of each other. Therefore, I'll go with C. Language similar to Brahmi script emerged in Kiladi in the 6th century, which is the most convincing conclusion from this statement. Now, look at the choices. Kiladi is a center of culture and learning far superior to any others. So clear extreme statement. Nowhere does the author suggest that Kiladi is far superior to every other center of learning. People of Kiladi were illiterate, could not use language. This is going exactly against the facts given. right? They found inscriptions. Ancient urban history could be altered by the findings. Obviously, it can't be all the above. Therefore, it will be C. Fourth is very straightforward. It's more like a GK question. BCE would mean before the common era. A farmer could write his own name on the pot he owned. The fight going on here is you are not the one to teach me to write. I have learnt it myself. Now look at the choices. Here, this is given here. The evolution of writing is attributed to Ashokan edicts, but much before Ashoka, writing was there in Keladi. Why? Because they found the script, the Tamili, which is a variant of the Brahmi script. And farmer could write his own name on a pot. What does this mean? This means that writing was not only there with some elite people, the common people also could use language, in specifically writing. So, the Keladi civilization was an inegalitarian. Egalitarian means equal kind of society, inegalitarian meaning unequal. Unfortunately, this doesn't work because if a farmer can write, so it is clearly a more equal kind of a society. Keladi civilization did not conserve access to education and literacy only for the elite. This is supported. Okay, because if farmers also could write, then clearly it is not only the elite. Farmers were also potters is a stupid kind of a conclusion. All the above would go. Therefore, it is. Okay. Sixth and the last passage, again an interesting one. This is more like a story. Somewhere in the night, near the Yamuna river, people had dug boreholes. And using boreholes, they were collecting groundwater. Okay, using diesel generators, submersible pumps, they were taking out water. This water goes into tankers, and these tankers go through the highway and they sell this water to factories, hospitals, malls, and right. Why? And he says the entire business is illegal. Digging of borewells without permission, trucks operate without permission, water is sold without testing or treatment. So it is night work. Why is it night work? Because they are doing illegal activity. And kind of everybody seems to know, right? There are bosses who arrange who will buy, who will sell. There are labor who fills the tankers. Police look the other way, etc., etc. But why is this happening? It is happening because there are a lot of people in Delhi who don't have a pipe water connection. And even if you have a connection, you only receive water for a few hours a day. So people rely on this illegal supply of tanker water. And it is called water tanker mafia. Okay. And then the author's conclusion, while the mafia says, look, people need water, we are supplying it, it's a community service, right? Author does not agree. Author says this is a subversive water industry, a thriving black market who are exploiting a fast depleting common reserves and threatening long-term water security. Which of the following can be inferred from the passage? The water tanker mafia, though illegal, are justified. Definitely not. Passage has some very sharp words. They are saying they are using or exploiting a fast depleting resource. They are threatening long-term water security of the country. So clearly this cannot be inferred. The water supplied by the tanker mafia is potentially contaminated. Remember, it says potentially. Okay. Why does it say that? Because it is given that the water is collected, sold illegally without any testing or treatment. So it's possible that water can be contaminated. So B is possible. But let's look at C and D. Private truck owners play the most important role. No, doesn't seem to anyway specify that private truck owners play the most significant role. There are many people involved, including police, which possibly takes money to not interfere. Okay, what is given here is residents have come to rely on private truck owners, the most visible strands of a dispersed web of city councillors, farmers, real estate agents, fixers. So there are a lot of people, but on the surface, the people that you see are the water tankers. Okay, the others are hidden. That doesn't mean that tanker operators are the most important people. They are only the most visible people. So C is wrong. Water supply is primarily for residential use. Sorry, clearly given that they supply to hospitals, malls, factories, all kinds of stuff. Therefore, B is the only option. Again, remember, even if you don't find the part, because somewhere in the middle of the passage, it says the water is not tested or treated. Even if you don't find it, by elimination, you can come to which of the following suggests that the illegal supply is not a recent phenomenon. You don't need to refer back to the passage. Ubiquitous, meaning everywhere. Long-term water security doesn't say anything. Fast depleting doesn't say, but entrenched says. Entrenched means it is kind of dug deep and it has become a feature. So it's not something new. It is well established. Which of the following is author's main concern in the passage? Okay, Delhi's water supply infrastructure does not cater to all residents. This is true. Right? There are about 25% who don't have a pipe connection. Even those who have, some of them get only for a few hours. The illegal operations do not depend on the complicity of ragers. So this is exact opposite. It depends on the complicity of many people, including police. The petty profiteering of few actors come at immense cost of India's sustainable access to water. Because B is wrong, therefore all the above is wrong. It's a question of A and C. A is true, so is B, but which is the main concern? Again, if you look back specifically, that is how he says. He says it's a black market, lot of small-time freelance agents who are exploiting a common resource and threatening the long-term water security. So yes, the government is at fault because they're not able to deliver water to everybody, but that is not the main concern in this passage. Main concern is how this group of people are endangering the long-term water security. All the following are sounds you hear as water tankers are filled. Now, this is a debatable question, except. Right? Now, if you look back at the passage, let me clear the ink, make it easier. We are looking at sounds. Okay. While one man fits the hose's mouth over a borehole, another clambers about the truck and shows the tube opposite end into the empty steel cistern attached to the vehicle's creaky frame. It's here. On curve, diesel generators begin to thrum. Submersible pipes drone as they discharge thousands of gallons of groundwater. The liquid gushes through the hoses into the truck's tank. Right? Now, unfortunately, all the four words are there in the passage. And all the four are onomatopic words, which means words that are pronounced the way the actual sound is. Like, slam and thunk and bang kind of stuff. Now, the answer given by the consortium is D, gushing. But this is a debatable question. We have also advised students to challenge it. My answer I have taken is creaking. Okay, thrumming and droning, no problem. The diesel generators are thrumming and the pumps are droning, so no problem there. Okay, now the argument possibly could be made that gushing talks about the flow of water and not the sound, but that is not true. It refers to both. Gushing can refer to the flow of water. It can also refer to the sound as water flows. Right? My argument for creaking is that the truck is creaking. The frame of the truck is creaky. Okay, so creaky would mean that it is prone to creaking. Doesn't mean that the truck is actually creaking at that time. Right? I hope you understand the small difference there. Creaking as a word is not used. Creaky frame. That means the frame is liable to creak. But at the time the water is being filled, is the frame creaking? We don't know. Because remember, while water, if you sort of infer it a little bit, as the water is filled, the tanker is not moving. So when the truck is not moving, is the frame creaky? We don't really know. But the others are clearly given. Therefore, I personally believe A is a better answer. And we have filed the objection. Let's see whether consortium accepts it. Which of the following words in the passage means hidden? So again, no need to refer back. Illicit means illegal. Idling means not doing any work. Subversive and covert. Covert is a better option. Covert is hidden. Subversive is aimed at working against a system. Subvert is kind of, work against the system from within, trying to destroy a functioning system from within. Okay. So that effectively not a very easy paper, bit tricky. There are enough questions which are tricky. Thankfully, there are maybe only a couple of questions which are debatable. Students also reported that solving this section took some time. So, 30-35 minutes is what good students have taken. And of course, for average students, it will take a little more time. And yes, getting anything in excess of 20 in this paper is a really good score.